When a lot of people start learning photography, they jump straight into manual settings. I'm sure you're familiar with aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. I think this confuses a lot of people when they're getting started. These are technical terms that you don't use in everyday life. They're denoted by fractions. We have a lot of photography jargon surrounding these terms. So when I teach people getting started in photography, one of the first things that I start with is understanding the concept of what's happening when you're taking a photo. So you really need to sit down and think to yourself before you start learning about those settings, what is actually happening when your camera takes a photo? If you've tried to learn manual settings and it was a little bit overwhelming for you, that's totally normal. When I picked up a camera for the first time, I jumped straight into learning manual settings because I heard that was the best thing to do. And because I didn't fully understand what was happening within the camera when I changed those settings, I took photos that were frankly terrible. I wasn't happy with the outcome, and it was quite frustrating, and I felt like I was wasting my time. And so I wanted to make this video today to kind of stop you from making that leap into manual settings just before you understand the simple concept of how cameras work. All cameras, from point and shoot cameras to cell phone cameras to mirrorless cameras like this one, and even film and cinema cameras, all do the same process. They let light in through the lens, they shape that light, and then record it. When you're learning manual settings, you need to keep in mind that those settings are altering that process in some way, right? It could be to your advantage or your disadvantage, depending on the situation. But having that mindset shift and understanding that those settings are affecting that process makes it much easier to understand when the time comes. So those settings affect letting that light in through the lens, shaping that light, and recording that light. That's pretty much it. When you're uninformed about that process, even in automatic modes, things can feel a bit inconsistent. One photo can be really sharp and clear, and then the next photo you can take is super blurry and you can't see anything. One photo could be just right, looks real good, and then the next two photos can be way too bright or way too dark, and it doesn't make any sense because you're in the same environment. The camera is making those decisions about those settings for you, and the camera isn't a human. It doesn't understand what you're trying to convey creatively. It doesn't understand what should be clear, what should not be clear. It's just using, the latest technology to make its best assumption, and sometimes that assumption's incorrect. The reasons why cameras help is pretty simple, and why you would choose one over a phone is that in many situations, cameras give you a lot more room to operate. They're better in high speed situations if you were trying to take pictures of sports and something that was moving very quickly and you wanted to isolate subjects there. Or in low light situations, because of the bigger lenses and the bigger sensors that are inside cameras, they can kind of take in more light and get better quality in low light. They can also handle more challenging situations. If there's a photo that you need to take and there's a really bright spot in the photo and a really dark spot in the photo, but you wanted to be able to see things in both of those areas, cameras do a much better job at handling that, and et cetera, and so on. I mean, they're very advanced tools that are specific to taking pictures. Your phone does many other things as well, which makes them also easier to learn on, which might not be the way that you feel. Because when you change settings on a camera, you can see more dramatically how those settings affect an image. And also, they give you the ability to really fine tune and change a lot of things to get the exact image that you're looking for. This is where a lot of people get stuck when it comes to camera settings. It's not necessarily a you issue, as in it's too complicated for you to digest and understand. It's more of a context and a mindset switch when you're thinking about camera settings. They don't really work like history facts where you know the exact date and time and that's what happened and that's it. It is law. They're more like a tool in your toolbox that gets applied to get the desired look that you want when you're creating videos or photos. When you change that mindset and you approach each time that you're picking up your camera and setting your settings up as tools to get your desired look, they become a whole lot easier to understand and digest. And you know where to start, you know how far to go when you're changing those settings, and you'll be a lot more pleased with the outcome of the images because you design them yourself using the tools you have available. So now that you understand the context switch and the mindset switch you have to have when approaching camera settings, um, it should be easier for you to digest them one by one. We'll tackle them in a series of videos and make sure that they're simplified so that you understand what their purpose is, why they're used, when to use them, and how to apply them as a tool to get the look that you're looking for. But before we get into understanding the settings themselves individually, it really, really helps to make sure that you have the correct tool for the job. So if you don't already have a camera, I can help you process the information that is needed to know when you're going to purchase one and making sure that the camera that you purchase is appropriate for the work that you're trying to do. So next up, we'll be talking about how to get the correct camera setup and making it super easy so that you don't have to watch hours of YouTube reviews and gear reviews to figure out what's right for you. Instead, you know exactly what you're trying to shoot, what attributes of the lens and the camera that are going to be most important for what you're trying to shoot, and how to then find a camera in your budget that has strengths that lean towards the creative decisions you'll be making as you go out there and take your photos. So hopefully that was helpful in understanding that camera settings may not be the best place to start. Knowing that cameras let light in, shape that light, and then record that light should be super helpful when approaching the settings and keeping in mind that those settings affect that funnel in some way. And we can use that to our benefit when creating cool content, cool art, and just even family photos.